The grand meeting hall of the Galactic Council floated in space like a giant crystal ball. Inside, beings from 17 different worlds had gathered to discuss something new, something strange. Humans wanted to join them. Captain John Martinez stood at the center of the hall. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. His hands were rough from years of work, but he kept them folded peacefully in front of him. Around him, aliens of every shape and size watched carefully. Some floated in the air. Others stood on many legs. A few were just shapes of light. "Earth comes in peace," John said. His voice was calm and warm. "We bring gifts. We bring medicine that can cure diseases. We bring music and art. We bring new ways to grow food. We want to help." The Kalari ambassador moved forward. This alien looked like living glass, its body shifting and changing like water. "You humans come from Earth. We have heard stories about your world. They say everything there tries to kill you. The weather is violent. The animals are dangerous. Even tiny things you cannot see can make you sick and die. How can beings from such a terrible place be peaceful?" John smiled. It was the smile of a grandfather talking to children. "Yes, Earth can be dangerous, but that has taught us to work together. We learned that helping each other is how we survive. Now we want to help all of you too." Lisa Grant stepped forward next. She was Earth's main diplomat, a woman who always seemed happy. She carried a large box. "We brought food for everyone. To try," she said. "We changed it so each species can eat it safely." The room filled with interested whispers. Lisa handed out the food samples. The Zephyrians, who looked like butterflies made of pure light, floated down carefully. They were nervous around humans. Humans moved so fast, so suddenly. But Lisa moved slowly, gently, making sure not to scare them. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The aliens watched the humans carefully. These creatures from the Deathworld seemed so normal, so safe. They laughed, they told jokes, they helped fix broken machines. They shared their knowledge freely. On a research station far from Earth, Commander Paul Blake worked with alien scientists. The station was huge, with gardens that grew food for 3 different colony worlds. Paul was a big man, but he moved carefully around his alien co-workers. He never wanted to scare anyone. "The tomatoes are growing well," Paul told his Etherian colleague. The Etherian was just energy, no body at all. But somehow Paul had learned to understand when it was happy or sad. "We should have enough to feed the colony on Kepler 7 next month." The Etherian pulsed with a pleased light. "Humans are so strange," it said. "You grow things. You create. We thought Deathworlders would only destroy." Paul laughed. "We can do both. We just prefer to grow things." But sometimes, small things happened that made the aliens wonder. Amy Rodriguez was a security officer at the station. One day, the lights failed in Section C. Complete darkness. Most aliens were terrified, unable to move. But Amy walked through the blackness like it was bright as day. She fixed the problem and had everyone back to safety in minutes. "How did you see?" a Kalari scientist asked her. Amy shrugged. "I didn't. I just knew where everything was." Kevin Young was an engineer. When the station's reactor started to fail, he worked for 36 hours straight to fix it. No sleep. No rest, just work. The other species needed to take breaks every few hours or they would collapse, but Kevin kept going like a machine. "Are you not tired?" asked his Vorthak assistant. "I'm exhausted," Kevin admitted, still working. "But the job's not done yet." Ellen Foster worked with plants from different worlds. Many of these plants were deadly poison to most species. One touch could kill. But Ellen handled them with her bare hands, humming while she worked. "Does the poison not affect you?" a worried Zephyrian asked. "Oh, it does," Ellen said cheerfully. "My hands are pretty numb right now, but I'll be fine by tomorrow." Far away, in the dark parts of space, the Vorthak Empire watched. The Vorthak were warriors. They had conquered every species they had ever met. Their empire was huge, covering 1,000 star systems. They were strong, cruel, and had never known defeat. Admiral Krexitheta sat in his command ship, reading reports about humans. He was massive, covered in natural armor that looked like black stone. His forearms each held a different report. These humans are weak, he told his war council. Look at them. They share their food. They grow flowers. They sing songs. They act like prey animals, not predators. But Admiral, one of his generals said, they come from a death world. Perhaps we should be careful. Crex Theta laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. One small world, 40 ships in their fleet. We have 40,000. What could they possibly do to the mighty Vorthak Empire? Back at the Galactic Council, the vote was held. Should humanity be allowed to join? One by one, the species voted. The Etherians voted yes. The Kalari voted yes. Even the nervous Zephyrians voted yes. Humanity was welcomed into the galactic community with open arms. There was a party. Humans brought music from Earth. They brought more food. They taught alien children games. Dr. Alan Pierce, a human doctor who had been working to cure diseases across the galaxy, gave a speech about cooperation and friendship. Together we are stronger, Alan said. Together we can build a better future for all our children. The crowd cheered. The humans smiled and waved. Everything seemed perfect. But late that night, when most of the delegates had gone to sleep, a few humans gathered in a quiet room. Admiral Susan Walker, General Ben Cooper, and a few others. They didn't look like the happy, peaceful humans from the party. The Vorthak are going to be a problem, Susan said quietly. I know, Ben replied. They're testing our defenses. They think we're weak. Let them think that, Susan said. It's better if everyone thinks we're harmless. But we need to be ready. The colony ships? Ben asked. All armed. Hidden weapons, but armed. Same with the research stations. Everything looks civilian, but... Susan trailed off. But we know what we are, Ben finished. We know what Earth made us. They were quiet for a moment. Outside, the window stars twinkled peacefully. I hope we never have to show them, Susan said finally. I like being the nice ones. I like being peaceful. So do I, Ben agreed. But if someone pushes us, then they'll learn why Earth is called a death world, Susan finished. And they'll learn that we were being kind by choice, not because we had to be. The next morning, the humans were back to being friendly and helpful. John Martinez helped fix a broken translator. Lisa Grant shared breakfast with her new alien friends. Paul Blake tended to his gardens. Everything was normal. Everything was peaceful. But sometimes, when no one was looking, the humans would glance at each other. A small nod, a tiny gesture. They knew what the others knew. They were not sheep pretending to be wolves. They were wolves who had decided to be shepherds. For now, the galaxy celebrated its new members. The peaceful humans from Earth, the helpers, the healers, the ones who brought gifts and asked for nothing in return. If only they knew what slept beneath that peaceful surface. If only they knew what humans really were when they stopped choosing to be kind. 3 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. The peace had been good. Trade was growing. Different species were learning from each other. Humans had built hospitals on 12 worlds. Their doctors had cured plagues that had killed millions. Everything seemed perfect. Then the message came. Every communication device in Council space received it at the same time. The image of Admiral Crexa Theta filled screens and holograms across 100 worlds. His black armor gleamed. His forearms spread wide. Behind him, thousands of warships floated in formation. I am Admiral Crexa Theta of the Vorthak Empire, he said. His voice was like thunder. For too long, the weak have held resources that belong to the strong. Your council controls systems rich in minerals, rich in water, rich in everything the IE. Vorthak Empire needs. You have 7 days to surrender. If you do not, we will take what we want and you will all die. The message ended. Panic spread across the galaxy like fire. The council called an emergency meeting immediately. Representatives from every member species gathered on the neutral station near Proxima Centauri. The fear in the room was thick enough to touch. "We must evacuate," said the Etherian delegate. Its energy form flickered with terror. "We cannot fight the Vorthak. No one has ever beaten them." "Perhaps we can negotiate," suggested the Kalari ambassador. "If we give them the outer territories, maybe they will leave the core worlds alone." Species after species spoke. All said the same thing. Run, hide, surrender. Give the Vorthak what they wanted and hope they would be satisfied. Then Admiral Susan Walker stood up. The human woman was not tall. She was not particularly strong-looking. She wore a simple uniform. But when she stood, the room went quiet. There was something about the way she moved. Something that made even the biggest aliens in the room pay attention. "Earth votes no," she said. Her voice was calm, steady. No evacuation, no surrender, no negotiation with bullies. The room exploded in shocked voices. "This is madness," shouted the Kalari ambassador. "You have 40 ships. The Vorthak have 40,000. You cannot win." Susan did not raise her voice. She did not need to. "You're right. We have 40 ships. Officially." The way she said officially made several delegates shift nervously. Dr. Alan Pierce stood up next to Susan, the gentle doctor who had saved so many lives. But today something was different about him. His usual warm smile was gone. "You've all been very kind to us," Alan said. "You welcomed us. You shared with us. You became our friends, and we value that. We really do. For 3 years you've seen us at our best, at our kindest. We helped because we wanted to help. We healed because we wanted to heal." He paused and looked around the room. "But now someone is threatening our friends, threatening children, threatening innocent people, and that changes things." "What can you do?" asked the Zephyrian delegate. The creature of light was trembling. "You are so few. They are so many." Susan and Alan looked at each other. Something passed between them, a decision. "You're about to find out," Susan said. The first Vorthak attack came 2 days later. They hit the mining colony on Titan II. It was a small place. 300 humans worked there, along with about 1,000 aliens from various species. The EI colony mined rare minerals used in spaceship fuel. The Vorthak sent 3 warships and 500 warriors. It should have been more than enough. The colony had no military defenses. The nearest Council defense force was 3 days away at maximum speed. Everyone watching the long-range sensors knew the colony was doomed. The Vorthak ships appeared. Drop pods full of warriors fell toward the surface. The colonists sent out distress calls. Then the distress calls stopped. For 18 hours, there was silence. The Council Defense Force pushed their engines to the limit, knowing they were racing to count the dead. Commander Tekvar, a Kalari military officer, prepared his crew to document the massacre. They arrived to find the colony intact. The lights were on, people were moving around, and scattered across the landing field were 300 dead Vorthak warriors. Danny Chen met them at the landing pad. He was the colony's security chief, a short human with a friendly face. He was covered in what looked like purple blood, Vorthak blood. "Oh hey," Danny said as if nothing had happened. "You guys made good time. Want some coffee?" Commander Tekvar could not speak for a moment. "What happened here?" "They attacked. We defended. They lost." Danny shrugged. "Pretty simple, really." "But how?" Tekvar demanded. "You had no weapons. No soldiers." Danny grinned. It was not a nice grin. "We had mining equipment. Turns out a mining laser that can cut through asteroid rock works pretty well on Vorthak armor. And we had miners. You know what miners are like? They're people who choose to live in deep space, breaking rocks for a living. They're tough, and they don't like people threatening their friends." The footage from the colony's security cameras was sent to every world in Council space. It showed the impossible. Humans in mining suits, not military armor, fighting Vorthak warriors. Kate Phillips, a small woman who usually operated drilling equipment, killed 12 warriors with a modified rock drill. She moved through the low, gravity like she was dancing. One image became famous across the galaxy. A Vorthak warrior, 2 feet taller than the human he was fighting, being lifted over the human's head and thrown into a rock grinder. The human was smiling while he did it. The Vorthak Empire received the footage too. For the first time in their history, they paused. They had never seen their warriors die like this. They had never seen anyone fight like this. Admiral Krexitheta called his war council. It was a fluke, he said. The warriors were overconfident. They underestimated the humans. It will not happen again. But his generals were not so sure. Admiral, one said carefully, the humans fought without fear. They seemed to enjoy it. And they used mining tools as weapons. If their civilians can do this, what can their soldiers do? Krexitheta slammed one of his 4 fists on the table. They are one species, one small world. We are an empire. We have conquered 1,000 systems. We will not be stopped by some upstart Deathworlders. Back on Earth, things were changing. The friendly, peaceful facade was falling away. In schools, children were being taught new games. Games that looked like fun but were actually training. How to move in low gravity. How to hold your breath for a long time. How to work together to solve problems. President Maria Santos spoke to Earth's population. Her face appeared on every screen on the planet. Our friends in space are in danger, she said. The Vorthak Empire wants to hurt them, to conquer them, to kill their children. We all know what Earth taught us. We all know what we are capable of. For 3 years, we've chosen peace. Now someone is trying to take that choice away from us. She paused. 10 billion humans watched in silence. They're about to learn what a mistake that was. In shipyards hidden beneath Earth's oceans, workers pulled covers off ships that had been built in secret. These were not the 40 peaceful vessels the galaxy knew about. These were something else. Something that had been waiting. Captain Frank Torres stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, one of the hidden ships. It was smaller than a Vorthak battleship, but built with technology the galaxy had never seen. Gravity weapons, shields that bent space itself, engines that could push the ship to speeds that should be impossible. All crews, report ready status, Frank said. One by one, 50 ships reported in. 50 ships that the galaxy didn't know existed. The Vorthak sent another message. This time, Krexitheta was not alone. Behind him stood thousands of warriors. Each one was massive, armed, and ready for war. You killed our warriors, he said. This was a mistake. Now we come for Earth. Surrender or burn. This time, Earth's response was different. It came from a child. 8-year-old Lucy Morgan appeared on the screen. She was missing a front tooth. She wore a pink dress with flowers on it. She looked like she should be playing with dolls, not addressing a galactic empire. My mom is a Marine, Lucy said. She says you're bullies. We don't like bullies. And you know what? You should run away now. Because my mom and her friends are coming, and they're not going to be nice like we usually are. The galaxy held its breath. A child had just threatened the Vorthak Empire. It should have been funny. It wasn't. Because behind Lucy, through the window, Earth's hidden fleet was rising. From the oceans, the Vorthak fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 5,000 ships, each one armed with weapons that could crack a moon in half. Admiral Krexitheta stood on the bridge of his flagship, all 4 arms crossed in satisfaction. Send the message, he ordered. The communication went out to every human settlement, every Earth ship, every human ear in the galaxy. Surrender or your homeworld burns. You have 1 hour to decide. On Earth, people watched the sky. They could see the lights of the Vorthak fleet, even in daytime. 5,000 dots of light that meant death. Parents held their children. Old people sat on their porches drinking tea. Everyone waited. The council species watched their screens in horror. The Etherians wept energy tears. The Zephyrians huddled together. They were about to watch their kind human friends die. The humans, who had brought them medicine and music and food. Then something strange happened. Earth's emergency broadcast system activated. But instead of evacuation orders or surrender terms, music started playing. It was an old song. Something about not stopping, about fighting to the end. And all across Earth, 10 billion humans started to smile. Captain Frank Torres sat in his command chair aboard the USS Defiance. His crew of 30 humans were all grinning too. They had been waiting for this moment, training for it, hoping it would never come, but ready for it anyway. "All ships, this is Torres," he said into the comm. "Remember the plan. Make them regret ever hearing about Earth. 50 ships against 5,000. It should have been a joke." The USS Defiance accelerated. The speed was impossible. The ship should have torn apart. The crew should have been crushed into paste. But the ship held together, and the crew was fine, because humans had been keeping secrets. The Defiance hit the Vorthak formation at 70% the speed of light. At that speed, it didn't need weapons. It was a weapon. It punched through 3 battleships like a bullet through paper. The Vorthak shields, designed to stop energy weapons and missiles, did nothing against pure kinetic force. From Earth's surface, hidden installations came alive. Mountains split open. Ocean floors cracked. Weapons that humanity had built but never shown powered up. Dr. Nancy Hughes sat at a control station, her fingers dancing over buttons and screens. The same hands that had developed cures for 17 different alien plagues now targeted weapons that could punch holes in moons. "Firing solution calculated," she said calmly. 27 targets locked. 27 beams of pure energy lanced out from Earth. Each one hit a Vorthak command ship. The ships didn't explode. They just stopped existing. The energy beams had torn them apart at the atomic level. Admiral Krexatheta watched 3 of his best ships simply vanish. "What are they using?" he screamed. "Unknown, Admiral," his science officer replied. "The energy readings are impossible. They're using power levels that should require a star to generate." But the real horror was about to begin. Marine Sergeant Jake Murphy stood in the airlock of a small stealth ship. Behind him, 12 other Marines were getting ready. They wore what looked like normal spacesuits. No heavy armor, no massive weapons. Just suits and what looked like hammers. "Remember," Jake said, "we're not trying to win a war. We're trying to send a message. Make it messy. Make it memorable. Make them never want to see a human again." The airlock opened. 13 humans jumped out into space. No ships, no pods. Just humans in suits, flying through the vacuum toward the Vorthak flagship. The Vorthak detected them. Warriors rushed to defend the hull. They laughed when they saw the humans coming. 13 soft beings in thin suits against hundreds of armored warriors. This would be easy. The humans hit the hull and stuck. They started walking on the ship's surface like it was solid ground. Their magnetic boots held them in place. The warriors came out to meet them. The first Vorthak warrior swung a plasma blade at Jake. The blade could cut through starship armor. Jake caught it with his bare hand. The suit's gloves smoked and melted, but Jake didn't let go. He pulled the warrior close and head-butted him. The Vorthak's helmet cracked. Purple blood sprayed into space and instantly froze. Private Emma Davis was fighting 3 warriors at once. One of them got lucky, his plasma blade taking her left arm off at the elbow. Emma looked at her severed arm floating in space. She grabbed it with her right hand and used it as a club, beating one warrior to death with her own severed limb. Then she calmly put a tourniquet on the stump and kept fighting. The footage was being broadcast live across the galaxy. Every species watched in stunned silence as 13 humans tore through hundreds of Vorthak warriors. The humans were taking damage. Broken bones, lost limbs, suit breaches that should have killed them instantly. But they kept fighting, and they were humming children's songs while they killed. Inside the flagship, Admiral Krexatheta was backing away from his command throne. His bridge crew was dead. Jake Murphy stood in the doorway, covered in purple blood. Half his face was burned away from a plasma hit. You could see his skull. He was still smiling. "What are you?" Krexatheta whispered. Jake walked forward slowly. Each step left a bloody footprint. "We're humans. We evolved on a world where the air can kill you if you breathe wrong, where the rain can melt your skin, where tiny invisible things in the water can eat you from the inside out. For millions of years, everything on our planet tried to kill us. He picked up a Vorthak warrior's severed arm and examined it. You know what that taught us? It taught us that there's no such thing as fighting fair. There's no such thing as too violent. There's only alive and dead, and we got very, very good at being alive. Back on Earth's moon, a hidden base opened its doors. Ships started pouring out. Not 50, not 100, 500 human vessels, each one armed with weapons that shouldn't exist. The galaxy had thought humans had 40 ships. They had been wrong by a factor of more than 10. Colonel Richard Stone commanded the second wave. His ship, the USS Revenge, was already moving toward Mars, where 1,000 Vorthak ships were gathering. He opened a channel to them. This is Colonel Stone. You have two choices. Run now and live. Stay and become a warning to anyone else who thinks threatening human children is a good idea. The Vorthak commanders laughed. 1,000 ships against 1. Even these impossible humans couldn't win those odds. The USS Revenge fired once. A new kind of weapon, something humans had developed while pretending to research farming equipment. It was called a singularity cannon. It created a tiny black hole that existed for exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds was enough. The black hole appeared in the middle of the Vorthak formation. Ships were pulled in, crushed, torn apart by gravity so strong that time itself bent around it. When the black hole vanished, 400 Vorthak ships were gone. Not destroyed, not broken, gone. Compressed into a space smaller than an atom, the remaining 600 ships tried to run. The USS Revenge fired again. On Earth, children were still playing. But now their games had changed. Little Tommy Ross was playing a video game that controlled real drone fighters in space. He thought it was a simulation, a fun game to help the war effort. He was 8 years old and had already killed 17 Vorthak pilots without knowing it. President Maria Santos addressed the galaxy. Behind her, screens showed the destruction of the Vorthak fleet. But her voice was calm, friendly, even. We tried to be nice, she said. We came to you with open hands and open hearts. We shared our medicine, our food, our knowledge. We helped you because we wanted to be good neighbors, good friends. She paused. On the screens, another Vorthak ship exploded. But you need to understand something about humans. We're not naturally nice. We had to learn to be nice. It took us thousands of years to learn to control what we really are. We chose to be kind. We chose to be helpful. We chose to be peaceful. Another pause. Another ship dying. The Vorthak made us stop choosing. They threatened our children. They threatened our friends. So now you get to see what we're like when we're not choosing to be nice. Now you get to see the species that conquered a death world not by hiding from danger, but by becoming more dangerous than anything else on the planet. The battle was almost over. Of the 5,000 ships that had come to Earth, less than 500 remained. They were running, scattering in all directions. Some human ships pursued them. Others let them go. The ones that escaped would spread the story. They would tell the galaxy what happened when you threatened humanity. Admiral Crex Theta was still alive. Jake Murphy had broken all 4 of his arms but left him breathing. He was brought to Earth, to the United Nations building. Representatives from every nation watched as he was forced to kneel. Lucy Morgan walked up to him. The same little girl who had delivered Earth's warning. She looked up at the massive alien warrior who had threatened to burn her world. My mom says bullies are just scared people who act mean, she said. Are you scared now? Crexatheta, Supreme, Admiral of the Vorthak Empire, conqueror of 1,000 worlds, looked at the human child and did something no Vorthak had ever done. He cried. The war should have ended when the Vorthak fleet fled Earth. Any reasonable species would have let them go, been satisfied with victory. But humans had never been reasonable. They had just been pretending. President Maria Santos stood before the Galactic Council. Her smile was the same warm smile she had worn during trade negotiations. Somehow, that made it worse. The Vorthak Empire has committed genocide against 17 species, she said. They have destroyed entire civilizations. Billions of innocent people are dead because of them. We cannot let that stand. The Etherian delegate pulsed frantically. The war is over. You won. They ran away. The defensive war is over, agreed General Ben Cooper. He stood next to Maria, his face calm. Now it's time for justice. You cannot mean to hunt them, the Kalari ambassador said. That would make you no better than they are. Maria's smile never changed. Oh, we're much better than they are. We're going to give them choices. Surrender and face trial. Run and hide forever. Or fight and die. Those are more choices than they gave their victims. The galaxy watched in growing horror as humanity began the hunt. Human ships didn't just attack Vorthak positions. That would have been war. This was something else. This was psychological torture on a galactic scale. Captain Laura Griffin commanded a new kind of ship. The USS Ghost was small, fast, and could hide from any sensor. Her crew of 50 humans had one job: make the Vorthak afraid. They would appear near Vorthak colonies, broadcast recordings of human children singing lullabies, and disappear. The songs would play for hours. Happy children's voices echoing through Vorthak cities. Sometimes the songs would stop and a voice would whisper, "We are coming." The Vorthak tried to fight back. They set traps. They gathered their remaining fleets. It didn't matter. The humans had stopped pretending to fight fair. Engineer. Tony Martinez had an idea. The Vorthak communicated using a specific frequency of sound. Tony discovered that if you broadcast human music at just the right volume on that frequency, it would cause the Vorthak incredible pain. Not enough to kill, just enough to hurt. So human ships started broadcasting Earth music during battles. The Vorthak warriors would collapse screaming. Their own communication systems turned into weapons against them, and the humans would board their ships while Beethoven's Ninth Symphony played in the background. But the worst part was how humanity involved everyone. On Earth, schools started having Help the War effort days. Children would play educational games that were actually controlling drones in space. Little Sally Johnson, age 7, thought she was learning about angles and trajectories. She was actually calculating firing solutions for orbital bombardments. Grandmother, Betty Anderson, 78 years old, spent her afternoons knitting and planning battle strategies. She had never been in the military. She was just good at puzzles. Her strategy for attacking a Vorthak fuel depot was so effective that it became standard human military doctrine. Chef Carlos Rivera discovered that mixing common kitchen ingredients in certain ways created a gas that could eat through Vorthak armor. He posted the recipe online with a cheerful cooking video. And remember, he said, smiling at the camera, this also makes a great marinade for chicken. The Vorthak Empire began to collapse. Not from military defeats, though those came regularly, but from fear. Vorthak warriors bred for combat over millennia refused to fight humans. They had seen the videos. Humans laughing while missing limbs. Humans humming while covered in blood. Humans treating war like a game their children could play. One Vorthak survivor transmitted a message that was intercepted by the council. They don't fight. They hunt. They enjoy it. They make art from our bones. Their children draw pictures of our deaths and hang them on refrigerators. Their elderly plan our destruction while drinking tea. They are not a species. They are a plague that learned to smile. Dr. Jennifer Kim gave lectures that were broadcast across human space. The same woman who had spent years curing alien diseases now explained Vorthak anatomy with terrifying cheerfulness. Did you know, she said, pointing at a diagram, that Vorthak exoskeletons resonate at exactly 15,000 hertz? Play that frequency loud enough and they basically liquefy inside their own armor. We discovered this while trying to develop therapeutic sound treatments. Isn't xenobiology fascinating? The audience applauded. Some were taking notes. Within 3 months, the Vorthak Empire went from 1,000 systems to 500. Within 6 months, they held only 100. Not because humans conquered them, but because Vorthak colonies surrendered the moment a human ship appeared in their system. Some colonies evacuated entirely when they detected human radio signals from light years away. The populations fled into deep space, becoming refugees rather than face the hunters from Earth. Captain John Martinez, the same peaceful diplomat who had first approached the council, now commanded a fleet of 30 ships. He found a Vorthak colony that had been oppressing a species called the Gentle Ones for 300 years. John's fleet didn't attack immediately. First, they hacked into every screen in the colony and played a video. It showed human children on Earth playing with Gentle One refugees. The children were teaching the aliens hopscotch and sharing their lunch. The message was clear. These are our friends now. Then John spoke to the colony. You have 24 hours to leave. Take nothing but the clothes you wear. Leave all weapons. Leave all ships, walk into the desert and keep walking. If you're still here tomorrow, we'll let the children practice their aim. The entire colony, 2 million Vorthak, walked into the desert. They left everything behind. When asked why they didn't fight, their commander said simply, they would have let their children kill us. What species lets children kill? Only a species that doesn't see killing as wrong. But humanity's hunt had rules. Strange rules that only made them more terrifying. When human forces found Vorthak hospitals, they didn't attack. They improved them. They left medical supplies and instructions for treating injuries that Vorthak doctors didn't even know could be healed. The message was clear. We could destroy you, but we choose not to. Your life continues because we allow it. When they found Vorthak schools, they replaced all the military training programs with Earth cartoons. Vorthak children started learning about sharing and friendship from animated talking animals. One Vorthak parent said it was the cruelest thing the humans could have done. They're teaching our children to be like them, to choose between kindness and violence, to know they have options. The USS Nightmare, under Captain Greg Howard, found the Vorthak's main weapons research facility. It was heavily defended. Shields that could withstand a supernova. Weapons that could crack planets. Greg's ship fired one shot. Not a weapon, a device. It teleported every Vorthak in the facility to a habitable moon nearby. Then human engineers boarded the empty facility and started making changes. They didn't destroy it. They turned it into a playground. Every weapon became a toy. Every research lab became a classroom. The planet-cracking cannon was turned into the galaxy's largest water slide. And they left a sign. War is what children do when they don't know how to play nicely. Enjoy the playground. Love. Humanity. The psychological damage was complete. The Vorthak, who had defined themselves by strength and conquest, couldn't understand an enemy that could destroy them but chose to humiliate them. Instead, that treated their mighty empire like misbehaving children who needed a timeout. Admiral Krexatheta, still prisoner on Earth, was forced to watch it all. He saw his empire crumble not under military might, but under the weight of human disappointment. The humans treated the Vorthak like they were not evil, just poorly raised, like they needed guidance, not destruction. Why? He asked President Santos during one of her visits. Why not just destroy us? Maria's grandmother's smile never wavered. Because destruction is easy. Any species can destroy. But humans? We learned something special on our death world. We learned that the most powerful thing isn't the ability to kill. It's the ability to kill and choosing not to. It's showing someone that their life continues only because you allow it. That's not victory. That's dominance. She stood to leave, then turned back. Your species will survive. You'll rebuild. But you'll never forget. Every time a Vorthak looks at the stars, they'll remember that humans are out there, watching, judging, deciding if you deserve another day. And that fear will keep you peaceful better than any treaty ever could. By the end of the 6th month, the Vorthak Empire existed only in history. Their remaining population, less than 1 billion from an empire of trillions huddled on their homeworld. Human ships orbited above, not as conquerors, but as babysitters. The hunt was over. The wolves had made their point. And now, they were going, back to being shepherds. But everyone in the galaxy would remember what the shepherds could become. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council looked different now. The same representatives sat in the same seats. The same stars shined through the same windows. But everything had changed. The humans were no longer the new members asking to join. They were the ones everyone watched, the ones everyone feared. Ambassador Lisa Grant stood at the center of the hall. Her warm smile was still there, the same smile she had worn when she first offered food samples to nervous aliens. Somehow that smile was now the most frightening thing in the room. "We want to be absolutely clear," Lisa began. Her voice carried to every corner of the vast chamber. Every translator worked perfectly. Every being understood. "We choose peace, we choose cooperation, we choose kindness." She paused. The silence was complete. But that is a choice, not a limitation, not weakness, a choice. The new treaties were presented. Humanity would share their medical knowledge, all of it. The cures they had developed, the treatments they had discovered, diseases that had plagued worlds for millennia would disappear. They would share their agricultural technology. Worlds that had struggled to feed their populations would have abundant harvests. No child in council space would go hungry. They would share their terraforming knowledge. Dead worlds would bloom with life. Poisoned atmospheres would become breathable. The galaxy would grow green under human guidance. In exchange, humanity asked for nothing. No tribute, no special status, no conquered territories. They just wanted to help. The Kelari ambassador, his crystalline form shifting nervously, asked the question everyone was thinking. Why? After what you've shown you can do, why return to this? Dr. Alan Pierce answered, the gentle doctor who had become a weapon designer, who had turned healing into harming, who had shown the galaxy that human medicine could kill as easily as cure. Because we've seen what we become when we stop choosing kindness, he said. During the war, I designed weapons. I found ways to kill that I didn't know existed. And I was good at it. Very good. It was easy. Natural even. He looked around the room. That's what scared me. How easy it was. How natural it felt to stop being kind and start being what evolution made us. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We survived by becoming better killers than anything else on Earth. That's our nature. But we don't want that to be our identity. Captain John Martinez spoke next, the old diplomat who had become a warrior. Every human child learns to fight before they learn to read. We teach them to share. But first we teach them to survive. We are raised knowing that we are predators who choose to be protectors. It's a choice we make every single day. And if someone makes you stop choosing? Asked the Etherean delegate. Then they see what we are without choice, John said simply. They see the species that looked at a world trying to kill us and said, not today. The species that turned everything trying to eat us into food. That took diseases that should have wiped us out and turned them into vaccines. That looked at the ocean and built boats. That looked at the sky and built planes. That looked at space and built rockets. That looked at death itself and said, we'll deal with you later, we're busy. The treaties were signed. Every species agreed. Not because they wanted to, but because they were afraid not to. Human medical ships spread across the galaxy. Human teachers opened schools. Human farmers planted gardens. Everything went back to how it was before. Except for the fear. When human doctors performed surgery, their patients wondered what those skilled hands could do with a scalpel as a weapon. When human teachers spoke to children about conflict resolution, parents remembered how humanity had resolved the Vorthak Empire. When human engineers built cities, observers noted how easily those same tools could tear them down. On a small colony, at the edge of known space, humans and aliens worked together. The colony had members from 12 different species. They grew food. They built homes. They raised children together. It was peaceful. It was perfect. It was terrifying. 6-year-old Tommy Chen was playing with a young Zephyrian. The alien child's wings had gotten tangled in a thorny bush. Tommy's hands, small and careful, gently freed the delicate wings. He never pulled too hard, never moved too fast. He was so gentle. His teacher watched from nearby. She saw the Vorthak parent in the corner flinch. Not at any roughness from Tommy, but at the opposite. At how easily those small human hands could have torn those wings off. At how natural it would have been for a predator child to destroy rather than protect. But Tommy just smiled and went back to playing. He didn't know that his gentleness was more frightening than any threat. He didn't know that every alien parent watched human children play and saw tiny predators choosing to be kind. The Vorthak Empire's remains were given a choice. They could join the Council as a member species, with human supervision, or they could remain isolated on their homeworld forever. They chose to join. They had no real choice. Admiral Krexitheta was released. He returned to his homeworld as an advisor, not a conqueror. In his first speech to his people, he said something no Vorthak had ever said. We were wrong. We thought strength meant taking. We thought power meant destroying. The humans showed us that true strength is having the power to destroy and choosing to create. They are gardeners who remember how to be warriors. They are healers who remember how to be killers. They are teachers who remember how to be hunters. He paused, looking at his forearms. All had been broken by human hands. All had been healed by human medicine. They chose to heal what they broke. They chose to save what they could have destroyed. And that choice makes them more powerful than we ever were. Because we had to conquer. They choose to protect. We had to fight. They choose to help. We had no choice but to be what we were. They choose to be better than what they are. 5 years passed. The galaxy prospered. Trade flourished. Art and music spread from world to world. Human lullabies were sung to alien children. Alien foods were served at human tables. It was an age of peace unlike any before. But it was a different kind of peace. Not the peace of balance. Not the peace of mutual respect. It was the peace that comes when everyone knows where they stand. When the sheep know that the wolves have chosen to be shepherds but are still wolves. President Maria Santos gave her final speech before retiring. She was older now, her hair white, her face lined, but her smile was still the same. We came to the stars hoping to find friends, she said. We found them. We found species who welcomed us, who shared with us, who became our family. And when that family was threatened, we did what humans have always done. We protected our own. She looked directly at the camera. Every being in the galaxy felt like she was looking at them personally. We're going back to being kind now, back to being helpful, back to being the species that brings medicine and music and hope. That's who we choose to be. But remember, please remember, that it's a choice, and we can stop choosing at any time. On Earth, children played in parks. They learned to share. They learned to be gentle. They learned to help others. But they also learned other things. They learned to track movement in darkness. They learned to go without breathing for long periods. They learned that their bodies could take damage that would kill other species. They learned these things through games and play, never knowing they were being trained. Because humanity had learned something from the war. They had learned that showing the galaxy their true nature had been necessary, but they had also learned that they liked being kind better. They liked being the helpers, the healers, the teachers. Dr. Alan Pierce, now old and gray, taught at a university on Mars. His students were from 50 different species. In his final lecture, he said something that would be remembered forever. We call ourselves mankind. Man, kind. It's not just a name. It's a reminder. Every day we wake up and choose to be kind. We choose to help instead of hurt, to heal instead of harm, to teach instead of terrorize. But it's a choice, and that's what makes us human. Not that we are kind, but that we choose to be. A young Kalari student asked, "What happens if you stop choosing?" Alan smiled. The same gentle smile he'd worn while developing cures. The same smile he'd worn while designing weapons. The same smile that had made the galaxy realize that human kindness was not weakness but restraint. Then you'll meet the species that conquered Deathworlds not by hiding from danger, but by becoming more dangerous. You'll meet the hunters who learned to farm, the killers who learned to heal, the destroyers who learned to create. You'll meet what we really are under all our choices. He paused, his old eyes still sharp. And then you'll pray we start choosing kindness again. The galaxy continued to turn. Stars continued to shine. Life continued to grow and spread and evolve. And throughout it all, humanity tended their gardens, taught their classes, healed the sick, and fed the hungry. They chose to be kind. Every day they chose to be kind. And everyone else in the galaxy prayed they would never stop choosing.